In this video, we're going to look at the various formatting tools in Microsoft Excel. So far we've seen very plain, boring looking spreadsheets like this. Now, not that a spreadsheet necessarily has to look amazing or artistic, but I personally think it does look a lot better when things are laid out in certain ways, when cells are formatted in certain ways, and cells are shaded, and it makes things look nicer, easier on the eyes, things like that. So some of the formatting tools that we can use are cell alignment, setting the cells to various data types such as currency. You've got your font size, things like bold, underline, italics. You've got fill-in cells, you've got borders, removing columns, adjusting the cell width and height, text direction, how many decimal points, and merging cells. So I'm just going to go through how we do various skills in formatting. So first things first, we're going to look at this cell here. So as you can see, a few of these cells don't quite fit properly. The text goes off, so it says job referer rather than reference. So what we can do is you can click here and drag to make the cell bigger, or if it's like that, you can double click and it automatically fits. So if I just double click each of these, it will fit to the largest thing that is in the whole column. Okay. Next thing I might want to do is I might want to start making some form of title or something like that. So what I can do is maybe I'll move these by dragging there and putting them over here, and I might want to make this into a title. So I'm going to click this button here, which is merge and center. You see it makes that into one big cell and it puts the text in the middle. What I can then do is change the font to a certain font I might want. So let's say I wanted this one. Change the size. I can make it bold, italic, underlined. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that like that. Now, next thing I might want to do is just make that a little bit bigger as well. Is I might want to make these headings look a little bit better. So what I could do is I could make them bold, and I could use the fill bucket to maybe use like a grey and a black kind of colour. I might do the same for these, but I might not necessarily make them grey. So then I've got the cell alignment. Now this one's not necessarily that useful in this particular spreadsheet, but what I might want to do is maybe I want these to be positioned slightly differently. So what I can do is I can go to right click or format cells and go to alignment and say what I might want to do is have them at a 45-degree angle like that, for whatever reason. Sometimes when you've got quite a lot of writing, the cell's quite large, it's a lot more useful to have it maybe at a 90-degree angle or 45-degree angle or whatever. Now, next thing I might want to do is add a border. So I might decide, you know what, I want a border just around these ones here. So I could highlight all the cells and put like a normal border on. So all borders like that. And then what I might want to do is just on these grey ones, I might want to make a thick border, or maybe just on the outside. So I'll do the outside of the whole thing. Click here and go thick outside border. You can see it's like a thicker border around it. Now there's lots of different border styles you can choose from. You can even draw your own yourself. Now the next thing I want to look at is removing columns. So what I might want to do is get rid of Japan. I can just highlight the whole row, whole column rather, and click delete. And say if I want to get rid of this LGY, I could right click and delete, and that gets rid of it as well, and shifts everything up. But just be careful of things you've got over here. This one is absolutely fine, but if you had a really big spreadsheet and you just wanted to get rid of this, for example, and you didn't want to get rid of the 0.25, then that would delete the whole thing. You'd lose that. Now, the next thing I want to look at is setting the data types. So I can highlight these cells here. You can see at the moment it's on general. Now you can choose a lot of different data types. So I notice a percentage increase, it says percentage, so I can click percentage and that makes that into a percentage. Then what I might want to do is change the number of decimal points. So I want to make these ones here currency. So I can highlight these. I can choose currency, so I'm saying that's pounds. And then what I might want to do is click this button here. I can increase the number of decimal points or reduce them. So if I just want to round it up, for example. So that's the number of decimal points. You can also do exactly the same thing by going to format cells, choosing what you want. I might want to have a dollar sign instead. So Australian dollars to one decimal place, and I can go ahead and choose that. Exam question here. So here is an example of the kind of things you might get in an exam, but these skills are also useful if you're not actually a GCSE student as well. So merging cells A1 to H1 so it's a single cell. So A1 to H1, merge that so it's a single cell. Enter the text TWCT, week 14 payroll. Format it so it is bold 18 points, so change that number to 18. It needs to be centre aligned, which it already is, and a sans serif font. So the difference between a serif and a sans serif font is a serif font has little flicks like Times New Roman, for example. So I'll just quickly put a serif font on, like this one. It's got various little flicks on the end of the L's and T's, whereas a sans serif font doesn't have those, and those are better on the eyes usually, and usually better for computers. It wants to be white text on a black background, so I can change the text to white and make the cell black, like that. And then the last part I'll look at in a second, which is adding headers into a spreadsheet. So to add a header and footer, it's a little bit different in 365, but it's usually next to symbols, and you can see the word header and footer, whereas in 365, and because my screen's a little bit smaller, I have to go to this drop down menu in text, and I've got header and footer. This changes you to the header and footer section where you can start adding in details. So it's very similar to Microsoft Word, where you can type in some text if you want, so I can type in my name or whatever, or I might want to add in things like page numbers, the file path, and maybe the date or whatever it is, just like that. And it's exactly the same for your footers. So hopefully that was really helpful, and it allowed you to understand how to add in headers and footers, how to format the text alignment. So that's making things in the centre, left or right, changing your font size by changing the number here or using the font increase or decrease buttons, the fill tool using the fill bucket, putting borders and shading in like we did on the first example here, the borders and shading, removing columns and adding columns by doing right click delete row, adjusting the cell width and height using these sliders here. It also gives you the measurements there as well. Text direction, so that was when I made these onto the 45-degree angle, number of decimal points, merging cells, and changing data types to currency, number, and things like that. If you enjoyed that, please keep watching the rest of the series where we're going to be looking at more advanced features, using things like if statements and things like that within an Excel worksheet.